This is a story called The Little Monsters at Christmas, Chapter 41, The Children's Orchestra at Christmas. The kids are all at their orchestra meeting when their conductor announces that they have 3 Christmas concerts coming up over a period of 3 nights. She asked everyone if they'd be willing to meet up to practice every day instead of twice a week, and everyone agrees. Then she asked the little monsters if they'll each sing a solo and together as a group, and of course they agree. Leading up to the concerts, the kids rehearse constantly, not just with the orchestra but at home too. They also rehearse the carols that they want to sing, the proper version of course. One day they're out playing when the joke shop owner, who they call Mr. Joker, came over to talk to them. "Hey kids, I have some new stocking if you want to come and look at it. I'm just on my way back to the shop now as I nipped out for some lunch, if you want to come with me." The kids went with Mr. Joker to his shop, and when they got there he showed them his new stock. There were some toy horses, and when you stroked them, they neighed and lifted up their top lips and blew through their noses. If you touched their back end, they pooed, and it smelt like real horse poo. If you went behind them and touched their back legs, they kicked you. Then he showed them some toy cows, and if you stroked them, they lifted their heads up. If you squeezed their udders, they squirted milk at you. He then showed them some toy bowls, and if you touched their horns, they got angry, launched at you and attacked you with them. Then Stampy saw some toy goats. "Mr. Joker, what do these toy goats do?" "If you stroke them, they're really sweet, friendly and loving, but if you turn your back on them, they'll headbutt you," said Mr. Joker. Then Creeper saw some toy crocodiles. "Mr. Joker, what do these toy crocodiles do?" said Creeper. "If you touch their heads, they open their jaws wide and bite you," said Mr. Joker. The kids thought that these new toys were hilarious, and they bought them all. On the day of their next orchestra meeting, the kids took their new joke stuff with them and showed them to their friends and the conductor. They all thought that they were hilarious, and the gang couldn't wait for the Christmas concerts so that they could use them to play pranks on people. On the night of their first concert, the kids took their new joke stuff with them. Before they went on stage, they went round getting people to stroke their toy goats. However, one woman turned her back to kick her, and she let her goat go. He butted the woman on her bum, much to the kids' amusement. Then they went round getting people to stroke their toy horses. When they did, they pooed. And it stank. Then a boy touched the back legs on Grumpy's toy horse, and it kicked him, much to his and the gang's amusement. Then it was time for them to go on stage. The first one to perform their solo was Kicker, and she sang beautifully. Then she sat down to perform with the rest of the orchestra. They performed beautifully for about an hour, and then they took a break for 15 minutes, giving the gang just enough time to play more pranks on people. They went round getting people to stroke their toy horses. When they did, they pooped, and then they got them to touch their back legs. When they did, they kicked them, and thankfully they thought it was funny. Then it was time for them to go back on stage and perform with the orchestra. After about half an hour, it was Stampy's turn to sing his solo, and he was amazing. Then he sat down to carry on performing with the rest of the orchestra. They performed for another hour, and when they'd finished, everyone gave them a round of applause and a standing ovation. Then the gang all went back to Creeper's house for a sleepover. The next night, before they went on stage, they went round getting everyone to stroke their toy balls. When they did so, they were really calm, but when anyone touched their horns, they attacked them, and they all laughed. Then the kids went on stage and settled down ready to perform with the orchestra. After about 45 minutes, it was Stampy's turn to perform his solo. He sang beautifully, and then the orchestra performed for about another half an hour, and then they took a 20-minute break. During the break, the gang went round with their toy cows, and when anyone stroked them, they lifted their heads. However, when anyone squeezed their udders, they squirted milk at them, much to everyone's amusement. Then it was time for them to go back on stage, and Creeper performed her solo before the rest of the orchestra performed. When she finished, she sat down and performed for about an hour, and then they finished for the night. The gang all went back to Kicker's house for the sleepover. The next day it was raining, so they all stayed at Kicker's house until it was time for them to go to their final Christmas concert. Before they started, the gang went round with their toy crocodiles, and when anyone touched them, they opened their jaws wide and bit them. The kids did this for about 10 minutes, and then it was time for them to go on stage to perform. Before the orchestra started, Bumpy and Grumpy performed their solo together. When they finished, they sat down and performed with the orchestra. They performed for about an hour, and then they took a 20-minute break. During that time, the gang went round with their toy crocodiles again. Everyone thought they were hilarious. When the break was over, they went back on stage to perform with the orchestra. They performed for about an hour, and then the gang performed together as a band. When they finished, they received a round of applause, a standing ovation, and an encore. They performed a few more songs, and then their concert was over with, and the gang went back to Bumpy's house for the sleepover. The end. Thanks for watching, guys. Love yous. Take care. Bye.